So Node-RED is an integrated development environment for event-driven applications. It actually is built on top of Node, which uses a JavaScript language, but it's a graphical environment. So I'm going to show you how to get connected to it. So first you have to have it up and running, and it actually runs as like a web server. So to connect to it, you have to have the IP address or a DNS name of your machine. So I have a BeagleBone that is running Node-RED plugged into the USB. So it has an IP of 192.168.7.2, and but it doesn't run on the default port. It runs on a port called 18 or numbered 1880. So you have to put in a :1880 after the IP address or the domain name. Once you've done that, you can hit enter and it will connect. Now in this case I'm getting a not secure because there's an S here. So Node-RED does not run encrypted. Okay, it's just designed for running local on a trusted network. So you have to make sure that it says HTTP and then : / and no S. This will connect you to the Node-RED environment. So when you look at this, you'll see on the left hand side we have nodes. There's lots of different nodes here. In the middle is the programming area. It looks kind of small here because I'm just running this in a narrow format. And I have several different nodes, and then over here at the right we have like some statuses. So you can see here this node the flow. So the different programs that you create are called flows. So you build your flows up in this center area, and you can kind of control which flows are active. So I actually have a whole bunch of flows right now. But what I'm going to do is just go ahead and create a new flow. So I'm going to click over here and say add flow. So I'm going to add a flow. And on this flow now, I'm going to come over here and select some nodes. So these over here to the left are nodes, and I'm going to select an inject node. An inject node, you can inject a lot of different things. We're just going to go with the default, which is a timestamp. And then I'm going to have a debug. So what it's going to do is it's going to inject, this is the event. I'm going to press this button over here that'll inject the timestamp, and in this case it's just going to send it out to a debug. And so I'm going to take these and I just connect them together, and then I click on deploy up here. And so when I deploy, it's now deployed, and I can come over here to the debug screen to see my debug messages, and now this is the event driven. When I press this button here, it injects a timestamp in there. Now the timestamp, if you don't know anything about timestamps are typically given in the number of seconds since January 1st, 1970. So that's what that number there means. It's a number of seconds since January 1st, 1970. It's called the epoch time for computers. Now, one thing I like to do with this debug is if you double click on it and put node status here, then it will display it on the flow screen here. And so now I got to hit deploy. Anytime you make a change, you'll have to deploy it. And then now when I inject it, you'll see the timestamp show up underneath here. So it's kind of a quick way to view it without having to come over to the debug screen. But if you need more information, if there's more information there, this will only just show this little bit. So if it was a lot of a text here, you would have to still come to the debug screen to be able to see all of it. Okay. Now, one other thing that we can do with the timestamp, instead of simply injecting a timestamp, we can come over here and we can select, and we can send a string, we can send a number, or we can send a boolean. So a boolean would be either true or false. So see, it defaulted to true there, and then I can click on this and select false. Now you can give these names, but if I don't give it a name, when I make it true here, it'll actually put the true there. Now what I can do is I'm going to go ahead and just take this true boolean, and I'm going to copy it, Control C, Control V, make a copy of it. And then I'm going to change the copy to a false. And I'm going to connect that to this same debug statement. I'm going to hit deploy. And then now when I inject true, you can see there's a true that comes through. Or if I inject false, I get a false.